Okay, we're here on the Driveline podcast. I'm here with Joel Condreay, one of our pitching trainers in Washington, and we're talking about the in-season smart reports. New feature just got launched, coming live into the app probably by the time this is released, but certainly like this week, which is game tracking. So like what's one of the things that, besides just being able to like see guys' stats or whatever, like what's something that you think like game tracking really helps with for guys in season?
Yeah, I think the first big thing is just being able to monitor workload a lot easier, a lot more effectively. Because right now, if traditionally you have to wear your pulse if you want to track how much throwing you're doing in a game. But at this point, if you have ever trained with us using a pulse, you don't need to wear your pulse in a game. We can go into the data afterwards and we can estimate your workload. Now, the more that you've trained with us, the more precisely we can estimate your workload. But it's definitely something that's really exciting that we don't need to kind of play this guessing game anymore of how much you're throwing in an outing. And then we combine that with pulse data throughout a practice week, and suddenly we can get a really precise picture of kind of what a week of throwing looks like for you.
Yeah.
And that matters a lot to us because everybody goes through ups and downs throughout a season. And it's the most classic message that I get from a guy in May, a college arm in May. Hey, I'm 2 ticks down. I think my mechanics are off. What's going on? And the reality is that you might have something mechanically going on, but more often than not, that's not the case. We need to look a lot simpler. So my first question when I get that text from a guy is, first of all, talk to me about your sleep, your diet, your hydration, kind of how are the basic building blocks going?
Yeah.
Are we able to take care of those things right now? And pretty frequently the answer was no, stress, my girlfriend, classes, I got finals, whatever it may be. And then from there, the next question is talk to me about how much you're actually throwing throughout a week. And the reality is that more often than not, we're just not doing the right amount of work at the right time. And so when we step on the mound on Saturday for my start, I'm just not as prepared as I should be.
Or like you were earlier in the season.
Yeah, exactly. Because there is an accumulative effect as the season goes, obviously. And so being able to have your in-game data is just so valuable because we can use that and then we can prescribe how much you should be throwing on a day-to-day basis throughout the week to prep you to get you ready to actually take the mound when it's time and when the stats matter.
Do you think that those like workload adjustments should occur and like be significant like throughout the season? Like somebody throwing X amount in February should be throwing 2x or 0.5x like in May. Like do you find that to be a common thing?
I mean, I do think that we need to taper in some ways because as you allude to, as the season goes along, we do tire out, right? And so you have this accumulating effect that's happening on the mound. You have this accumulating effect that's happening in the weight room. And so we do need to reallocate training economy a little bit here and there. But that's all such an abstract concept unless you actually have pulse data and pretty precise pulse data to use to inform those decisions.
Yeah, because mostly guys are just like trying to go by feels or like by like, oh yeah, I like feels good today, so I'm gonna like let it eat.
Yeah,
feels terrible today, so I'm gonna not let it eat.
Yeah, and the reality is that by the time you hit the back quarter, even of a college season, especially if you're in a program where you're doing a lot of traveling, so you probably just don't feel good. Period.
Yeah, right.
So how can we maximize this is really our question.
Yeah, and you think the in-season data like helps because it starts to put this other piece of the puzzle at play where we currently didn't have it before.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the past we're just kind of guessing. Oh, well, you threw 90 pitches, you're probably gassed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but probably gassed is not the same thing as an actual workload. Like workload measurement.
Yeah. How does that change for relievers? Because starters and relievers like definitely have these like two totally different things. Where like for a starter, you can like plan it out. For a reliever, like you have these like crazy up downs, and it's hard to know exactly how much to throw in between.
Yeah, that's something that we've been working on. Basically, being able to automatically make recommendations, knowing that you're a reliever. So this week we have, you have your Wednesday midweek, and then you've got your Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. So with that in mind, we can say, okay, we know that you threw on Tuesday. We can dictate our Wednesday, Thursday in preparation for a potential game Friday. Oh, you didn't throw Friday. I can tell you how to warm up Saturday. And we
Yep.
can do all this automatically because there is so much variability. And like you said, we really can't plan ahead for what our reliever is going to do.
Yeah. Do you think that scales all the way down to like travel ball, high school? Like, because the same, yes, it's true that that happens in college, and it certainly is true. Like, the more that you scale, like, you know, you're going to be expected to do more in the minor leagues. But like, do you also think it works for like high school kids or?
Well, the irony there is that while you would think that you'd be expected to do more in the minor leagues, the usage patterns that I see the most that make me go, "Whoa, what is going on?"
Yeah,
is at
true.
the high school
That's
level,
true.
right?
That's true.
Because I mean, if you're a good high school arm, you're probably being asked to basically do both what a starter would do and what a reliever would do. So you're both being asked to cover, 80 pitches, 100 pitches in game, and you're also being asked to come back on short rest, potentially go, like twice in 3 days, something like that. So that is something
And play third base.
Yeah, well, no, exactly. Because if you're a good high school guy, you're almost certainly a two-way.
Yeah.
So that is something that I'm constantly telling the high school athletes I work with is like, don't let yourself be treated as both a starter and a reliever.
Yeah.
Like pick one. Either you're the guy who's going to go 100 pitches once a week, or you're the guy who is going shorter outings constantly. But don't let yourself be used as both, because that's just
where it's like
ridiculous workload.
I'm throwing like 90 pitches, but then like if you need me for 2 innings to close it out, like I'm there. Oh, like we're down in a tight game. Like you need me in the third. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'll throw another 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, I'm on 3 days rest. I can go. It's like you're in 3 days rest from 100 pitches. That's not the same thing as 3 days rest from a 2 inning outing.
Sure. Yeah. That's true. And even though like for college guys, the app like our training app now like updates your workloads automatically. Like if you log a game, it'll do that. But even in high school, like we can simulate a lot of those workloads just with data that we've previously collected, right? Like,
yeah, we can simulate workload in the app. It might not be as precise, but it's definitely something. And at the high school level, we need something.
You need something because that's like I think a lot of the value, the place where we're moving towards is like you wear it all the time except for in the game, and then we can simulate the game, because honestly the game is frankly the easiest place to simulate. Like it is the easiest because like, hey, these are the throws, and you can get some estimate of like you threw whatever 20 to get loose before the start, you threw 5 in between each inning. Like you can get a pretty clear number of throws. But it's very hard if you don't wear it on like a practice day or an off day or whatever to capture the like 6 throws from the outfield and like warming up and the throws you made in innie outie and like all these, just like it's just extra like stress that accumulates, and then you just never can like flush that out of the system in certain ways. So
yeah, and to that point, I think guys are constantly surprised the first time they wear their pulse during like a team practice, and they see just how many throws they made from shortstop.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that really adds up by the time you've done all your catch play, you've done all your long toss, you do all your team D, your individual defense. You might have like some sort of a team scrimmage or something at the end of the day. It's like you've made a lot of throws, and you probably would normally walk away from that day feeling like, oh, it was a medium intensity day. And by our measures, that's like an enormous, like that's the workload of a start. You know? And this was just a Tuesday practice day. I didn't even play a game today. You know, and so the way that we structure our throwing programming in the gym is we typically have 3 light days and then 3 heavier days in a week. And most high school guys come to find out that they're doing like 6 big days a week, essentially, by the way that we would measure in a controlled environment.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's also hard to have like, one, you don't even know that it's a problem, so there's that. But then secondarily, it can be hard. I mean, even as like a college pitcher to be like, hey, I need to take a break here, or like I need like a piece of rest here. Like it's difficult to try to like self-advocate for that, even if you have the data on your side.
Yeah, and the thing that I always try to articulate to guys is that your big days are going to be dictated to you by by your coaches. That's just what it is. You're gonna have to throw your bullpen. You're gonna have to make your appearances in games.
Yeah, you have
Obviously.
to take the like. This is the. I was like, there's no points for being great in the gym. Like
Yeah.
it just all the stuff happens on the field. Like you have to take the rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the trick really in season is finding the light days when they present themselves.
Exactly.
And not saying, oh, I'm gonna do, max long toss today.
Yeah.
It's like take your 100-foot catch play, take those chill days when you can. And then when you do that, suddenly the week as a whole kind of starts to fit together correctly.
Yeah.
And now I'm taking the ball on Saturday ready to go. I'm taking the mound Friday ready to roll.
That's the other. I mean, that's the thing that I have noticed about Pulse, and especially as we've like put more resources into it and like started to really flesh it out, is like there's this perception that it's there to like limit you, like to be like, oh, Joel, like don't do this, like you're gonna break, and guys don't. They already know that that's like in the back of your mind as a pitcher, especially one who's like pushing themselves, like. The risk that you're taking every time you throw. Like it's not like they're not aware, so that somewhere in the back of their head, they know that monster lives there. And so then they're like, oh, this thing's just going to like, limit me or whatever. It's like, no, this is the tool to make sure that like you're as good as possible every time you touch it. Like if you touch the rubber, you want to be ready to go.
Yeah, and to that point is kind of the larger point about stress, because I think a lot of times we hear stress discussed as like the boogeyman. Oh, the stress is bad.
Yeah.
What I always try to explain is the stress is non-negotiable.
Yeah, that's right.
You're a pro reliever. You're probably going to have a back-to-back this year in August where it's a dirty inning, ball gets booted, whatever. You walk a guy. You're 30 pitches into a back-to-back outing, and you got a 3-2 count, and you're going to reach back for your best fastball.
Yeah.
In front of 8,000 people. Like the stress of that throw is incredible, right? So the question isn't, is it stressful? The question is, are we prepared to handle that stress right now? And did our throwing over the last 10 months prepare me adequately for this? Like, am I ready to do this?
Yeah. That's right. Because and this is true of, I think where baseball, I think gets itself twisted up sometimes is that they're just like, oh, there's like an injury problem, so like we should not do the things that hurt us, and it's like, that's the game is that way. Like the game is pushing us more towards like these extreme, like outlier performances. And so we just have to be prepared, and being a prepared athlete is going to put you in the position to be successful when you have to take it. Like when you have to take the ball, toe the rubber, reach back for your best fastball, like you're either ready in that moment or not for some reason. And maybe it's your throwing, or maybe it's your sleep, or maybe it's your hydration, or maybe it's
all the above.
Whatever, but yeah, that's what I have found, is that guys just perceive it like, oh, it's this like nanny or whatever. And it's like, no, this is like your best friend.
Yeah. And oftentimes it is telling you to throw more.
Yeah. That's the dirty little secret is like, sometimes guys are not prepared because they are babying themselves.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because we see that all the time in gym, because obviously we're very specific with the way that we want to on-ramp our throwers to max effort throwing. But yeah, we see guys who they don't like to push it, especially in a training environment, and they want to back off because they can't get hurt, if it's light. But then their B days are never actually B days, and then their A days are never actually A days.
Yep.
Which means that by the time they get to max effort, they haven't taken those steps in between.
Yeah.
Because you don't get to go into the game and say, well, I didn't really do my A day, so I'm gonna treat this game at 90%.
That's right.
You need to get there.
The hitters will let you know.
Yeah,
that's right.
You need to be built up to that. And so when it's time to go, are you ready to go?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, going live in the app this week is a lot of info to make sure that, like, for the guys that are training with us in season, like, you do know, and there is a plan, and if you have a misstep or whatever, you can reach out, and there's actually a conversation to be had with some usable data around like these exact concepts.
Yeah, and the better we can nail down the building blocks of performance, the better you're going to perform.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, thanks, Joel.
Thank you.